What is up, guys? Let's get the curtain behind me. But, anyways, what is up, guys? Now, as I promised, I'd be reviewing the Rambo films. Now, I'll show it off. If you hear the music in the background, that's because I had the set. And I have, whoops, shit, knock that over. I have First Blood, Rambo First Blood Part 2 is on my DVD player right now. Rambo 3, Rambo, and the bonus, without tearing it up, but the digital copy for Rambo 4 and the bonus disc. And what better way to start with the classic? One of the greatest films of all time, one of the best films from Stallone, one of his best performances in my opinion, one of my favorite characters of his all time, one of my favorite films he's done. And I just got done watching with the commentary, which it's an okay commentary. It's some good stuff and some stuff I'm kind of like, but it's not a bad commentary because you get some useful stuff, and that is First Blood. What a amazing film. Now, I do prefer the sequels, but I have no problems with any of these films at all. Starting off with First Blood, whenever, about Mr. John Rambo, and I'll read the synopsis right here. He never fought a battle he couldn't win, except the conflict raging within his own soul. An ex-Marine Beret, haunted by memories of Vietnam, he was once the perfect killing machine. Now he's searching for peace, but instead finds his own overzealous small-town sheriff who's spoiling for a fight, and all hell breaks loose when an unjustly imprisoned Rambo escapes and becomes the massive target, becomes the target of a massive manhunt. Now he must use all of his cunning combat skills and weapons to train to stay alive and pursuers. It's a great drama in my opinion. Now, First Blood, it's more of a drama than it is an action film, while Rambo 2 and 3, those are action films, straight up. And Rambo 3 I find very underrated, and I love First Blood Part 2, but whenever I get to those reviews, you'll see what they're about. So basically, what this is about is you get in there. Shit. Okay, there we go. What it's about is you have Vietnam, John Rambo. I know it's already 2 minutes in, but because I was just talking about the stuff there, but you have Vietnam vet John Rambo coming back from war, and in the first scene you see him walking up to a pond to a lady, and he asks for his friend, and then he basically finds out that his last friend died in Vietnam in a slow and painful death. And then he shows the picture, like I got this picture of him, and then he finds out his last Vietnam friend died, and then you see him, start walking on the road. And a fun thing Stallone actually mentions on the commentary is that at first he didn't want to do this film. Because he hated the script. Like, he turned it down at first, but then he changed his mind and came back, which was a really brilliant move from Sly. Really, really brilliant. Because if he would have turned down this film, this would have been the biggest mistake ever he would have made. Because if he turned it down, and then because it really shows Stallone can act. And then you see him there, and then he gets into a small town, which was actually filmed in Canada. He mentions on the commentary as well. Then you see the sheriff, played by Brian Denny, comes up to him, asking him where he's from. Small town. He's like, "You headed north or south?" And then Rambo goes, "North." And then he's like, "Hop right in. I'll take you for a lift." And then they're driving, and then Rambo goes, "Got some place I can eat around here?" And then Brian Denny goes, "There's a diner right up south." And then they're driving, and one thing which was a brilliant, Sly put this in, and it was a brilliant move from him, was not having Rambo speak. So whatever he says, it's memorable. When one of the very first lines you get from him is, "Why you pushing me?" And then Brian Denny goes, "What? Excuse me?" I know that's not exactly what he said, but it sort of is. And then, "Why are you pushing me? I haven't done anything. We don't want guys like you." And I'm just thinking, what the fuck is wrong with him? It's not like how he was in Rhinestone, which I'll play that clip really quickly. I'm not going to show footage or anything, but I'm just going to play it in the background. But it's not like he's like this. Listen. It's not like he's doing a dancing a jig and doing Drinkenstein. It's just a normal guy in normal clothes. And then he kicks him out of his car, and he's like, have a safe travel. And what's interesting is that Stallone mentions it on the commentary that Brian Denny in real life was actually a Korean vet. And because of how Korean vets, oh shit, I didn't mean to do that. But how Korean vets get forgotten a lot compared to Vietnam vets, because basically in the film it's just a battle of the two. It's like Vietnam vets, they get remembered, they get all the praise, blah 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 blah. While the Korean vets get farts in the wind, they get kicked in the dust, they get forgotten, that sort of thing. So it's like, you're in my town and you get more praise of that. And then and stuff, and so he kicks him out. I know I just messed up my wording. And then the next thing you see is Rambo walks back. He's like, fuck this, I don't have to take this crap. And then he does what everyone else would probably do, is just starts walking back. And then Brian Denny sees he's walking back, and then he tries to grab him. He's like, oh, all right, you're under arrest. And then Rambo tries to move back. And he's like, hey, pal, where you? Or actually, no, Brian, I got that wrong. Brian Denny was following him, and he's like, hey, pal, where are you going? And then Rambo goes, and he goes, all right, you're under arrest. I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck did he do? All he did was defend himself. And then Brian Denny searches him, and he finds this knife right here. And he's like, what you got a knife for? And he's like, hunting. He's like, what you hunting? At deer and animal. And then Brian Denny has him handcuffed, and then puts him into the car and drives him back to the police station. And then it cuts to the police station. You see them walk in, and Brian Denny goes up and he says, I want you to book this gentleman for vagrancy, resisting arrest. Which, it's like, he didn't resist arrest, he was defending himself. And then you take him down, and he really gets abused. Like, first thing you see is he takes off his shirt, and you see all the scratches. And he gets whacked with a nightstick. And Stallone also mentioned on the commentary is that they had to film that scene. It took them 15 times to film that scene. And then that happens, and then you see him take his whole entire clothes off, and then gets sprayed with a hose. And it really makes you feel this for this character. And then it cuts to the police station fight, and then he's like, alright, hurry it up. And he's like, I'm just gonna shave you, boy. And then it brings him back to a flashback to Vietnam. And also I should mention that in the beginning, you see him look this way, and then he gets a flashback to Vietnam, so it shows Rambo has PTSD. He looks at that, gets a flashback to Vietnam, and then in the fight scene, when he sees the knife, he cuts back to one of the vets going, "Good-o!" I forget what he says exactly. And then the one cop goes, "Don't move. I don't want you to get hurt." And it cuts to him getting cut, and then he has the... Basically, I can put it as that one of the cops has the nightstick like this, and then he's holding him, and then brings him back and goes, whacks him in, then he kicks the cop, then he kicks another, then one he grabs him by the... grabs the fat cop like this with the claw, holds him, and gouges his eyes out. Then one of the other cops is on his back, and then he flips him, like takes him and goes, phew, flips him on the ground, punches him, elbows the cop, and one comes in and is, "What the hell is, ugh?" Then throws him in the window. Then he runs up the stairs, and Stallone also mentions in this next scene, which is coming up, he throws him, goes up the stairs, kicks the cop, punches him, and then gets the window and throws him out. And then he falls down, and then one of the cops, and Stallone actually mentioned that this was an actual actor, and not a stuntman. This was an actual actor getting kicked. He's like, wait, and then he flying side kicks him and falls down. And then this next one, right here, I'll show you. on this commentary right here, Stallone, this is another scene he talked about. He's like, he mentions that this guy, when he trips him, you see him like this. You see him trip him, and then he elbows him in the nose. Stallone actually mentions that he broke the guy's nose on set, and that he had to go to the hospital. And then he goes out of the police station. You see him run out. He's looking. He grabs the motorcycle, and then he's just riding off. And he even mentions that part of that scene that was him, and there's one point that was a stuntman. But he's driving off, and he's like, move, move, get out of the way, because he's warning people. Because one thing that's different about First Blood, the movie, to a novel is, in the novel, when he's triggered, he goes nuts and kills everyone. Like, it's like a killing fest for him. But in this one, it's just him being a normal vet, having common sense. Like, he doesn't know what he's going through, but he just does not kill anyone, because he gets flashbacks like from the war, but he knows he's still in the real world. And then he's driving off, and then he passes a train, and one of the guys Stallone mentions again on the commentary, I forget which it was, but decided to not have music because so you could feel what the character's going through, listening to the wind, listening to the sound. Then they're driving off. They're driving off, going this way, and then they pass the train tracks, keep going, and pass another train tracks, and then they turn into a scene, and then they turn the car, and the stuntman, Stallone actually mentioned this, the stuntman in the set accidentally flipped the car, but they kept that in either way, and then Brian Denny comes in that, with his car flipped, and then goes up the hill like this, and then his motorcycle falls over, which is really good stuff, and then he's running off, and Brian Denny goes, I know you can hear me! You're finished! Okay, I got so excited I was coughing. But he says that line, and that Rambo's off in the woods. You also get the scene where Brian Denny tells the other cops where he's at, but then Rambo's in the woods. Ignore the sounds in the background, by the way, guys, but Rambo's in the woods, and then he sees the guys. He's running around finding things, and then he comes across a junkyard. And Stallone again mentions in the commentary, I know I'm mentioning that a lot, but he mentions some really interesting stuff, that when he finds that tarp that he has on, is that was not provided by the wardrobe guys and stuff, that he actually found that randomly and has kept that ever since, which is pretty cool if you ask me. But he wears that on there. He made a joke on the commentary which made me laugh. He's like, it's my most prized possession. I keep it with me next to the tuxedo. But anyways, he's running around, finds his stuff, and then cuts it open like this. Like the tarp was so old, he could cut through it like that. And then next thing you see him is in the woods. Then Brian Denny and his team are getting ready. And what happens is that he's in the woods, and he's trying to hide and stuff, and then you really feel for him. They have Dobermans that come after him, and stuff, and then he sends one off. One got killed. Another got killed. Another got killed, and one of them got shot. And then what Rambo also does is that he sets up traps, and one of them actually caused the guy to go to the hospital. Stallone mentioned that's how bad it hurt for him and stuff. And then that's how hard it took him to get out, because the scene was so sharp. And then he comes up to Brian Denny, he holds him like this, and he goes, don't push it. You're gonna turn your little off, call your little off. Don't push it. Don't push it, or I won't give you a war you will believe. And he lets him go. Then you get to the scene with the news media, and they go, and they mention, what was it? Forgot it already. But no, he mentions that the guys barely made it alive with their own force, and it's like, Rambo, let them live, you know? But anyways, they're out, and then you get introduced to Richard Crenna, which may he rest in peace, because he really did a great performance on all of these films. He's with Richard Crenna comes in, and then first they're talking about how they kill him, and then they talk about how his character comes in, Colonel Sam Trotman. And then They wonder who made this thing, and then he's like, I did. Then he talks about it. I made him. I was his commander and chief and stuff. One second, guys. I gotta send a quick message. Alright, sorry about that, but Richard Crenna comes in and mentions all of what happened. And then he's there, and then you cut to Rambo again, where he's eating some raw pig and stuff that he killed. Because you also see him holding a branch, like a piece of wood that he made into a knife, and jumps onto a pig. And now he's hiding in a cave, and he also stole a police radio. Then they're talking and stuff, and then he gets flashback to Vietnam whenever he hears his Sam Trotman on there. And then he goes, yeah, if it ain't for that chicken shit, this is an outside war you caused. Yeah, if it ain't for that chicken chick, if it ain't for that fucking cop, this would have never started. All I wanted was a bite to eat. Then it cuts off. And it shows all the men getting ready. Next up, there was the scene. Then there was the scene where you see all the National Guards people come in, and they're shooting at the hole. And there's also the scene whenever, excuse me, pretend that didn't happen. But no, there's that scene whenever he encounters the kid, and then he jumps on top of him like this and takes his gun and throws it that way. And then he just proceeds because he knows. I like, this was a brilliant idea from Stallone, not to have him kill anyone or speak, because you can really sympathize with the character. Sympathize. There we go. Can't get my wording right for shit. Hold on, guys. I'll be right back. Apologies for the interruption, but you also, scene I forgot to mention before that is he's in the woods whenever the Doberman get killed. Excuse me. He's at the scene where the Doberman get killed, and then there's a helicopter hovering over him. And the idiot in the helicopter, for one, doesn't have a seatbelt on, isn't paying attention, and it's practical on the mountain. Yeah, practical on the mountain. That is actually Stallone on the mountain. No stuntman. He actually mentions that. He had a piece of rope tied to him while he was on the mountain. Whew, excuse me. Yeah, sorry about the heavy breathing, guys, but he has a rope tied to him on the mountain. And that he's walking around. Then you see the helicopter come, shoots at him, and then he jumps off. And part of that are two stuntmen, but at the end of that fall, that is Stallone on the fall. And he mentions that he broke his rib on the stunt, which shows you what he can do on these stunts. And then he falls down on the ground, and then he hides behind a tree, and then he grabs, then he looks over the tree like this, and then he gets shot at. Then he sees a stone. I'm gonna use that as an example. I'll use a Coke bottle as an example. Takes it and throws it at the helicopter. And the helicopter goes down, and the idiot in the helicopter wasn't paying attention and then falls down to his death. Boom. And then he goes down to check on the body. And then he picks it up like this. Once he gets down there, he gets more flashbacks. The late great Jerry Goldsmith music there on the body. Then he sets it down, takes his coat, and then he waits behind a rock. And then the guy's coming. He tries to surrender and stuff, gives himself up, does the right thing. And he says, "I didn't do anything," and they don't believe him. And then he mentions that it wasn't his fault. And then the idiot cops start shooting at him for no reason. And then Brian Denny goes, "Cease fire! Cease fire!" And then they cease fire. Anyway, and then he escapes. Now we're at the scene with the National Guardsmen, and then this is all practical right here. Stallone mentioned is that they had a real grenade launcher, and see, this is possible without CGI. They had a real grenade launcher there. But they had a real grenade launcher there. Shoots the run, and Rambo runs for his life, then falls into the water. Then he's going through, and Stallone even mentions that one of the things they thought of having in the water was crocodiles in there, and then they just changed their mind because they thought it was a stupid idea. Rambo wrestling crocodiles. So then you see rats come on them, and then they throw them, and then they get scared, so they jump on the nearest warm thing, because Stallone also talked about that in the commentary, that the water was freezing and that he had to go to the hospital a lot while filming. Then he gets out, then gets to the next scene whenever he jumps into a truck. He holds a knife to the guy, and then he's like, drive. Don't look at me, look at the road. That's how accidents happen, which I know on the commentary he says he wish he didn't, that's a line he wish he could take out, but yeah. That line's always made me giggle, especially in today's society with the idiots who use their phones while driving. They use their phones while driving, and then he takes the guy, he's like, alright. He says his name, which I can't remember right now, but he's like, alright, get out. Go home. And then he jumps out, and then he drives a big army truck, and then he also asks, what's in the back? And he says an M60. Drives through the barricade, and then goes on through. And then it cuts to the scene where it becomes at night. Then he's going through, and then he also had a bar scene at the beginning with Richard Crenna and Brian Denny talking about Rambo and what beast he became and what a monster he came at this point of the film. So then they're going through. Then he's going through. He basically destroys everything. He sets up gunpowder at a gun shop, causes everything to go on fire. He blows up a gas station. He shoots out the lights. And then Brian Denny comes on, tells everyone in the town to stay in their home. And then next up, you have him on the window, and then jumps down, and then Brian Denny comes out, and then he almost was about to die, and then he's like, go on, you piece of shit, do it. That's not exactly what he said, but Stallone does it better. And then Richard Crenna comes in and goes, Rambo! And you started this war, and then you get to one of the greatest lines. Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off. And then it goes on from there. And then Richard Crenna before that tells him, think what you're doing. There's a whole bunch of men there, and they start shooting at him, and then Richard Crenna screams through the window, cease fire! Cease fire! Then they do. And then he gets to one of this, and again, shows how that Stallone knows how to act. They get to a scene, and then Stallone's sitting down, and then he starts crying whenever he's talking about his past. And he talks about true stories, which, if you guys know the film, I wish I could show clips, but of course, fucking YouTube would copyright me. But either way, he shows that and then talks about what happened and stuff, and then how war has been for him. And then you see him hug Richard Crenna, and then at this point, you can tell by his expression and by how he's standing, he's just you're unsure what he thinks of Rambo and stuff doing that. Like, he's there for him, he just awkwardly hugs him like that, and he's taken down on handcuffs, and at the end of the movie. And this was still a masterpiece, a fast pace. Let me check how long it is. And if you guys can hear the music in the background, that's the menu of Rambo First Blood Part 2, which is a great sequel, and I'm going to talk about it in the next video, which it's November 1st as I'm recording this, and you guys are going to be seeing this the next day. So, anyways, Rambo First Blood time. And it's only, because originally it was supposed to be 3 hours long, and Stallone hated the original version, and then they had the editors go back and fix it, and it's only 93 minutes, which it's a good thing. Stallone made the right decision. Anyways, that's my review of a masterpiece of a Stallone film. A great character. Now in the sequel, it's even better. It's an even better ball game. And now stay tuned for my review of the sequel. I hope you guys enjoyed this review and all that stuff. And I'll see you soon. Leave your thoughts down below on the review and what you think of the Rambo films. And yes, this is going to be better than the remake by far. No questions. So, thank you guys for watching, and thank you for watching, bye-bye, and stay tuned for the next few reviews.